Hi, I'm Dr. Professor Alex Prema Zachariah, MD. My wife, Dr. Prema Zachariah, both of us, we are retired professors and physicians from India, now residing in Urbana since 2005. And we have here today David and Ruth. And I have been associated with both David and Ruth for the past several years with International Students Incorporated. Now, David, Ruth, tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, last time we had the chance to tell you a little bit more ourselves, and so this time we're going to talk a little bit more about the work that we do welcoming international students to the U of I. We believe that international students are some of the future leaders of this world, and we want them to have a good experience here at the U of I. And if they're interested, we want to also tell them about Jesus Christ, because we feel that He is the way and the truth and the life, and so we want them to have our joy and peace. So, but many aren't interested, and that's fine as well. So we work with a variety of students. And I can remember the first student we met was a man from Bangladesh, Zaman, and our son was just a few months old at the time, and so we became good friends with Zaman, and he cooked us some chicken meals at his place, and we had him over at our house for a number of times, and he was with us for a couple of years.
When was that?
This was probably 1984 or somewhere in there.
84.
And 86, and we're still in touch occasionally with him on Facebook. My wife is. And so we've been working with international students, and we also work as volunteers occasionally with the university. And Ruth, would you want to tell us a little bit about some of our earlier experiences with the U of I and the International Student Office?
Yes, one of our first experiences after we were married and got interested in working with internationals was just to volunteer at the university's International Student Office. They were always eager to have American volunteers help welcome all the new students that were arriving and needed to find housing. Back in those days, there was not the web as it is today. To find housing was difficult. And so we picked students up at the airport and found temporary housing for them, gave them advice, just how to get started. And so it was from that initial volunteer experience with the university, actually in their foreign student office, that we made a lot of good connections with students. And I also began attending a coffee for women, mainly wives of students. So many families come together. The students themselves might be married and bring their wife, their spouse, their children with them, and they need something to do while their husbands are busy at the lab. So I attended a hospitality committee's coffee hours, and from that we realized that the women really needed more than just a once-a-month coffee time, and I helped start a little group called the International Women's Connection, and so that has been going since then. So we started in 1987, and we've continued every year since then, welcoming women from, I think, over 50 countries, and having a lot of great experiences. The women are very educated. They're usually have left behind very good paying jobs in their own home country, and they come here and just need some basic help. Advice, even how to clean their little apartments and so on. And so just offering practical help and genuine friendship, the love of God it's just what we were able to do all these years, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And during this time I was working at the university. I was an administrator at the University of Illinois. I had a couple of different jobs. One was in central administration, and then for 11 years working in the planning office, and then doing kind of analytical work, and then 15 years in one of the academic departments. And so I have kind of a good understanding of the university, which actually helps in advising students, not so much how to solve their mathematical equations, but just in general how to deal with the University of Illinois and the complexity of that. And also we were actively involved in our church, And so on the weekends, I would lead a Bible study geared towards internationals, where we would focus a lot on vocabulary and things of that sort, and explain the foundational truths of Christianity. And so that was a very enjoyable time, and they appreciated that as well. But Ruth, why don't you tell us a little bit about our friend Jani from Brazil?
Right. Well, she was one of those very educated spouses that came along with her husband, who was studying computer engineering, and she was from a country where the help available to clean your home and those kind of things was more economical. So she wasn't really prepared for the duties of being a mother and taking care of everything. But she became a part of our International Women's Connection and was able to improve her English skills, as well as just, as I said, learn more about the culture and how to find her way around. She was able to make friends. A lot of women that come with their husbands who are very busy can actually become very depressed if they're not finding stimulating activities. So we were able to offer classes through the International Women's Connection. She actually learned and contributed a lot, and we had a funny story she would tell us about her son, who actually was a student, very brilliant, and he had written a story that the teacher was sure that her parents must have helped him write this very ingenious story. But when the teacher called home and talked to Jani with her heavy Brazilian accent, they were sure that she had not helped him. And so she always gave that as a great example of how needy she was, how much we were able to help her in the beginning.
Yeah. We were also fortunate in that we had some good examples, in the sense that while we were in Chicago, we worked with some ISI staff up in the Chicago area. And then when we came down here in 84, returned down to Urbana, there was another ISI staff person as well. And so we worked with churches in developing kind of friendship partner programs where American friends would be linked up and matched up with international students, and so families with students, and that way that the students could interact with Americans and maybe spend Thanksgiving dinner with Americans and things of that sort. So.
And you said about Chicago. This is where you had the Moody Bible Institute. Would you tell a little briefly about that?
Yeah. I took a year's leave of absence from the university, and both Ruth and I, we attended a one-year Bible program. It was for people who already had at least a bachelor's degree, and it was very helpful for us to get a firm foundation on what we believe. But when we returned, life began to get busy. We were blessed with seven children. Yes. And of course, I was working at the university. Ruth actually homeschooled our children. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were able to start with our first child not really knowing anything about homeschooling, but as we learned, we just were very attracted to the advantages that we found in homeschooling. We were able to let our children learn at their own rate of interest and help them as needed, and it was just a good building situation for our family as a whole. And so we really have enjoyed homeschooling, saw a lot of value in it, and have been able to even share that as well with our international friends who've been very interested in the educational processes here.
Yeah, actually, one of the benefits of homeschooling that we didn't realize until actually later was that because we homeschooled, our children became each other's best friends. Mm-hmm. Usually the typical best friend is the boy in your same class who lives a few blocks away, but in this case it was your brother and sister who you'd cajoled to play soccer in the backyard type of a thing. And so that was, so homeschooling was very much of a benefit. And it was quite interesting for internationals to find out about homeschooling as well. And Ruth, do you want to tell about the article that was written?
Yeah, we actually had some scholars who were journalists in China come to our home and participate in our Bible study, learned about our homeschooling, were very interested because this was very unique They had not met a homeschool family before, and they wanted to introduce this idea to China, and so they came and watched our family do homeschooling and wrote an article that was printed in what was basically Newsweek in China. So we're part of their magazine, that one issue.
Yeah. And then in 2002, kind of God closed some doors and opened some doors, and we joined ISI on a full-time basis. And so that really helped us in the sense of being able to devote more time. And also with the additional technologies, with email, it's a lot easier to contact international students now and organize things, as opposed to before. I used to rely on the telephone, and then I have to, find their apartment building, knock on their door, and hope they were home, and these types of things. And now you can just use your cell phone and email, and it's a snap. But we were able to work full time since '82 or 2002.
That brings us to the point. From '84, it was not ISI. You had your own experience with international students. It is very important that you were able to develop those skills. So between the period coming back from Moody, from Chicago, and joining the ISI, it's about 8 to 10 years?
Actually, it was, we were official staff with ISI in the sense that we were fully trained by ISI, but we were not raising support. We were not employed. So we were official staff, but not salaried staff. So we were official volunteers. We did that from '84 to 2002. So that's about 18 years. And then since 2002, we've been fully employed.
Yes.
And Ruth now works quarter time, and I'm full time with ISI.
That in that way, so everything sort of blended together.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very well.
Yes.
And
right,
so
it was a natural step.
Yes.
it was a natural step. And so I'm able to devote more time. And so our Bible study, instead of just being one Bible study, we actually have about 2 or 3 or 4 Bible studies in our home at the same time on Friday evenings. Which is nice. We have several volunteers that are helping us. We also are able to take educational type trips with international students. And just this past Saturday, I went to Springfield, Illinois with 15 international students. We had a great time and saw the museum and realized what difficulties Abraham Lincoln persevered through, as well as some of the leadership qualities that he had, and hopefully that will result in good quality leaders around the world in the next generation as well. But I also take trips to Springfield, Illinois. Springfield Turkey Run is another favorite place that I like to go because it's just so beautiful. We take trips to Chicago as well. And so in January, I took a group to Chicago. There were some free days at the museum. And so we were able to do that. And so it's just very good. Also, holidays are a very special time for us in the sense that we can have enjoyable experiences with internationals. Usually the international students are really quite busy. They're either graduate students or there's a lot of pressure on them. And so holidays, Christmas and Thanksgiving, are opportunities that they enjoy spending time with American families, getting to know the culture, things of that nature. And so we always try and do special things for the holidays. The past several years over Independence Day, we take a group and see the 4th of July parade, which is right outside of our church on Lincoln Avenue, and Twin City Bible Church. And oftentimes there's a potluck lunch, and then we watch the parade. Thanksgiving's a special time as well, and we oftentimes invite international students not only to our house, but other friends of ours from our church are interested in opening their home up to other international guests, and so many friends of ours host international students as well. And in general, it's a very positive experience. I'm always thankful that our children had this experience of interacting with people from another culture. And Ruth, do you want to tell us what Anna's doing right now? And
Yeah, our daughter that just graduated from high school is taking a gap year, and so she's in Germany right now. Wants to gain some cross-cultural experience because of all the experiences. She really says it has a lot to do with the international students she has met because they have inspired her, just showing her the courage they had to come here, even though they didn't know the language completely. She just has really enjoyed and, like I said, been motivated and inspired by the international students that she has met. And I think several of our other children as well have really benefited a lot from, learning about the world directly from people that are coming and giving us the story of life in their home countries. And it's just a great education for all of us.
yeah. And one of my favorite holidays is Christmas, in the sense that we can, we usually have a Christmas party at our home, kind of a potluck type of a thing, where our Bible study, we have maybe a Christmas story from the Bible, and then we have a nice dinner together. But on Christmas Eve, we invite our friends to attend Twin City Bible Church's Christmas Eve program. The last few years there have been about 30 internationals who come, and they see the Christmas Eve program, and then we, with our volunteers, take them around to different Christmas sites like Candlestick Lane and other places where the houses are all nicely decorated. Then we come to our home and have some hot drinks and sing a few Christmas carols, and then we take them home. And so that's been a very enjoyable thing for them. And also the other thing is that I think the internationals really benefit also from reading the Bible. One of our friends, Hong Biao, he was kind of interesting. We picked up a student from Willard Airport and brought him home. He didn't have any housing, so he stayed with us over the weekend until he found a place to stay. And I talked with him about our Friday Bible study, thinking that he would come to our Bible study after being in our home. And so I called him up, and he wasn't home, but his roommate was. And his roommate, I said, well, I was going to invite your roommate to come to our house, but if you would like to come, you'd be welcome. And so that's how Hong Biao came. So the roommate, Hong Biao, came to our home and very regularly, every Friday. And about 6 months later, I didn't realize it at the time, but he said that he put his trust in Jesus Christ from reading the Bible. Because at first he came just to practice his English. But then he really got interested in the stories and the Bible, and he really became a Christian. And so that was a very significant aspect in his own life that he's benefited from. And so we've been good friends over the last 20 years or so, and as brothers in Christ. So it's just a very special thing. And when we think about it, we think about missions, and the Bible shows both cases. You have people like Paul, the Apostle Paul, who go out from the church, and the same thing is happening today, but there's a lot of barriers. There's a financial barrier. It's very expensive to send people out. They have to learn the language. They need to develop a cultural network of friends in their new country that they visit, and this can take many, many years. But with these internationals, they not only know English, so I don't need to, they know their home country language. They have a whole network of friends back in their home country, and so they can be extremely effective when they return to their own countries. And that's why I like especially Bible studies, because it's very easy to lead a Bible study in your home. You just need a few friends and a Bible to read, and so it's very effective and very, very easy that way. And we see this happening as well in the Bible. There's a famous story of the Ethiopian eunuch in the book of Acts, where Philip shares the good news about Jesus Christ with him. The Ethiopian is baptized. And a lot of people don't know this, but actually Ethiopia was the first Christian country in existence.
Yes.
So it beat Rome, the Roman Empire. So we can see that it's a very effective opportunity, and many world leaders have been international students in various universities. And so this is just a wonderful opportunity to be to affect the future leaders of the world.
And since I've been associated for a number of years, I've seen the bulk of them now are from China. When did that shift, or was it from the beginning that way?
It wasn't until the mid-'70s when President Nixon met with the president of China that some students first came. And the first students who came here were actually at the time I was in my 30s, but the students who came because of the Cultural Revolution, they were the educated from the previous generation. And so they were like in their 50s or so. And so I can remember some of them first coming, and they were interested in learning more about this country, and they saw the abundance of this country, and they saw churches on every corner, and they were wondering, tell me about this God that officially doesn't exist. And so we had very many good friendships with some of the Chinese who first came. And one in particular, he really wanted to have a car because I guess in China at the time, now there's many cars in China, but at the time having a car was like having a Learjet. And so he wanted a car so he found a car for I think $300, and it worked most of the time, but in the winter when it got cold it quit working. So he wanted me to have someone fix it for him, and I couldn't find, I mean, he wanted to fix a $300 car for very little, and so it was kind of a struggle to find some place, and finally I got a place that would fix it on their own time. When they had a chance, they would work on it. And over the weekend, the car was actually vandalized, and so the mechanic called me and said that I'm sorry that your car window was broken and the radio came out and was taken away, and I had to then call my international Chinese friend and tell him that his car was vandalized. But I couldn't tell him that his car was vandalized because I knew he wouldn't know the word vandalize. And so I had to say that his car was broken in two. And he thought his car was broken in half. He said, no, David, you're kidding me. I said, no, it was broken into. He said, no, you're kidding me. It was, So then I had to describe what happened to his car. But anyways, the mechanic was very nice in replacing the window and stuff like this. But all in all, it was an experience. and fun and well.
Yeah. Answer your question, Rema, about the shift. From the beginning, there weren't as many Chinese, as David said. There were a few. But probably 10 years ago, quite a shift. And now there's a very large number of Chinese students, both in the undergrad classes as well as graduate students, as well as very many visiting scholars due to the special relationship and programs that the University of Illinois has started with different universities in China.
Yeah. Actually, there's well over 3,000 Chinese students on campus right now, and the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign campus has the second largest population of international students in the country. And so we, partly because the U of I has really wanted to make this an emphasis of theirs, because it increases the reputation as well as the global significance of this university. And so this is well known in many circles. And right now we're actually, some of the freshman students are some of the children that we actually interacted with their parents when they were scholars years ago. So,
yeah, after Chinese students, it is the Indians.
Yes.
Yes.
Indian students. And I was interested to see there are very few Indian students. And then when I talked to some of the Chinese visiting scholars, and they said something which was very interesting. It said it is almost mandated for them to go to United States, learn their culture, learn their religion, and their way of life and everything. And what a best opportunity where they can learn, because Christianity is it's merged into the fabric of the American history and culture.
Yes.
Yes, that's very true. That's a good point. And many of the, especially the Chinese, they're very much interested in learning about American culture, and they realize by learning about the Bible, they're getting a better understanding of American culture. And so they're very much interested that way. And then oftentimes, though, they get intrigued by the lessons from the Bible, the stories from the Bible, and they want to read it. And so we oftentimes use bilingual Bibles now, where they can read it in Mandarin as well as they can read it in English. And so that's been a very big help for us.
So the American food, American culture, and American religion, the predominant religion, all these you get in one house. That is yours.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. No, we're very fortunate. And for those of you who don't know, Rema comes every week with his ukulele and leads us in singing. And then sometimes goes downstairs. The scholars, many of them have children, and so he goes down and gives some music, leads some music, as well as sometimes a story or two with puppets. So I think Rema is the only ventriloquist medical doctor from India that I've ever known. I can safely say that.
And it is, for me, it is the high point of my week.
Well, thank you.
Now, we would be back with their wonderful trip to China, and you would bring some clips and other details of their China trip 2 years ago?
Yes.
2 years ago. And in conclusion?
Okay, well, thank you, Raymond. It's been a pleasure to be here with you, and it's a pleasure to have you join us every Friday evening at our home for our Bible study. So thank you so much.
And thank you for watching us.